Jim James the Venus Kid Trap is a short story that I wrote for creative writing. All semester, I've been writing random stories about random people in the class. We had an assignment where we had to create a character with a personality. So I used James Beyer as inspiration, and the first thought that popped into my mind was a Venus flytrap. This became my first idea for Jim James the Venus Kid Trap. He ended up becoming the main character in my story, and I will now share for you an excerpt of the story where Jim James escapes from his home in the woods of Seelow County, Virginia to the Amazon rainforest. After some time passed, Jim James finally found his usual routine. He would photosynthesize most of the day away and eat unfortunate animals that landed in his mouth at his place in the woods. Then, once the sun went down, he would awaken from his trance and go on the hunt for that night's naughtiest child. The Seelow County of Virginia, where Jim James resided, never really had a problem with Jim James consuming its naughty problem children, because the county had the smallest crime rate in the whole country due to there being no naughty children that grew up. The county didn't know it was Jim James. They were just happy that whatever it was there. Well, they were happy until one fateful evening when Jim James tried to consume the county sheriff's child. The sheriff knew his son was a problem child from his birth when he tried to strangle his mother with his umbilical cord as soon as he was birthed. The sheriff grabbed his son and put him into his place. The sheriff thought because he was the best policeman, he could raise his son correctly, didn't want any monster to eat his child. So once his son became of age, where he was considered a kid, the ripe age for Jim James's taste, he set up an intense home security system. Jim James got up that evening, slightly dazed and still a little stiff from the day. He flexed his stem and his sleeves and then headed to town. He had heard some babbling about how the sheriff's son was causing problems in his first grade class and decided that was tonight's target. He slowly went from yard to yard, hiding amongst the plants and trees, until he finally came to the 10-foot walls with electric barbed wire on top and large shining spotlights of the elaborate marble whitewashed house. He gave a quiet sigh, looked a little disgruntled, and then dug under the fence. He crept along the ground, pretending to be an ordinary plant any time the lights came near. But then he realized there was a problem. There were no trees in this yard, and he was by far the tallest plant. They knew he was there. He had to act quickly or get caught and potentially executed. He moved as quickly as he could, which was about a human's slow walking pace, and got to the walls of the house. He then planted his roots in the soil and grew his vines up to the child's window. He unlocked the window with a tiny little pedicle going through the small cracks in the window. He climbed through the window and was in the child's room. He heard some commotion downstairs from the sheriff searching for the house for him. He scanned the room, and the child was nowhere to be found. The sheriff was now running up the stairs, and Jim James, scared for his life, contorted his body and hid in an old trench coat in the child's closet. Smack! The child's door flew open. Jim James saw light from a flashlight pass through the cracks of the closet. The sheriff was throwing stuff around and moving furniture, looking for his son and Jim James. He heard the sheriff shout, "Whatever you are, I know you are in here." Jim James had a chill run down his stem, and he would have gulped and held his breath if he was capable of it. Then the closet started to slowly slide open. The sheriff peeked in a little bit, moved some clothes on Jim James' side, then the other, retreated a bit. Then with a sudden movement, the sheriff ripped out the trench coat, threw Jim James on the ground. With a few struggles and some really close bites, Jim James was all tied up. The next day was Jim James' court case. He was being tried on attempted murder and a suspected murder of close to 300 children. The entire town was now against him. The monster they used to love for keeping the community so orderly was now brought into the light of just what he had been doing. The court case went pretty quickly because Jim James couldn't speak English and didn't have a lawyer. He was instantly found guilty and ordered to death. Jim James was feeling very threatened. Jim James generally preferred to eat children because their small bodies were easy to digest, easy to eat small polite bites, and he never binge ate, always cut the body into nice bite-sized pieces, never burped at the table, and never spilled. Jim James knew what he would have to do. He would have to eat everyone in the courtroom and flee to the Amazon. Jim James got up out of his seat, contorted his stem out of the ropes, and slowly stretched towards the sheriff. And in the blink of an eye, Jim James unhinged his jaw and swallowed the sheriff whole. Jim James faced off with close to 50 people that evening, and after eating about 15, the rest ran away to get reinforcements and cower in fear. Jim James was now feeling very lethargic and wandered to his forest to spend a day in the sun before fleeing to the Amazon, to rest his stomach and digest all the people. The next night, and a couple of months, he spent going from Virginia, going from Virginia, going to a new county each night, eating troubled children on his way to Mexico. He spent about a month traveling through Mexico, another for the rest of Central America, and then one more finally getting to the Amazon. Jim James started a new life deep in the Amazon, where he can thrive off the naughty spider monkeys and evil gorillas. He doesn't even have to sneak around anymore. The monkey and gorilla tribes give them their problem animals, and he takes care of them. This is where Jim James has been living the past 40 years in perfect harmony. I hope you now realize that creative stories can be written about just about anything, and I really hope you appreciate that.